It's so good to see all of you here. Governor Bashir, Dr. Owens, Mayor Maiden, and honoured guests, good afternoon. My name is Georgia Machel, and I'm the interim president and CEO of the National WIC Association. It's my honour, and I truly mean that, it is my honour to welcome you to the Bell Theatre and this extremely special event. We're just so glad to have you all here. Now, I've worked for the National WIC Association for nearly a decade, and in all sorts of capacities: research and evaluation, grant funding and development, member programming, internal operations, and now my current position. But in all those years and in all those roles, nothing has meant more to me than this. The opportunity to host this gathering is one of the biggest honours of my career. Now, let me be upfront, and I say this with all due respect. I'm guessing that many people who haven't lived in or been to Pineville, Kentucky, probably don't know much about Pineville, Kentucky. Pineville, after all, is a mere 1.7 square miles, and home to less than 2,000 residents. It's a small town in a small county in a pretty big state. But whether they know it or not, there are millions of women and families around the country over multiple generations who all owe Pineville a debt of gratitude. It was here in Pineville 50 years ago this month where the first WIC clinic opened its doors. In the late 1960s and early 70s, policymakers, physicians, and public health officials were alarmed by the growing number of low-income mothers and babies in America suffering from malnutrition. Many young women were having difficult pregnancies because they couldn't afford to buy enough food. In some parts of the country, doctors responded by setting up clinics that served food and prescribing women with vouchers that they could use to get what they needed. It was a simple idea that made a lot of sense, but needed to be brought to scale nationally to have a major impact. A 2-year demonstration project was launched by Congress in 1972, and in 1974, the Pineville WIC Clinic opened its doors. It is our great honour to have 2 of those early pioneers here with us today. Dr. David Page, whose voucher program through Johns Hopkins University became the basis for WIC, and Miss Betty Hopkins, one of the original nurses at the Pineville WIC Clinic, are both here. Let's give them a round of applause. I also want to take a special moment to remember another Pineville WIC pioneer who we recently lost. Brenda Mason, who also helped open the original Pineville Clinic and worked at the Bell County Health Department for more than 20 years. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor her contributions and her legacy. Thank you. You could have imagined that in 1974, the impact WIC would have had over the ensuing 50 years. What started in those early days in Pineville has transformed the lives of millions of women and young children across the country over half a century. And the research is really clear. WIC reduces poverty and hunger, provides women with critical pregnancy care and breastfeeding support, and ensures young children have the nutrition and healthcare services they need for a healthy start in life. But WIC is more than just funding and vouchers and EBT cards. It's the human connection that makes the program work. At the National WIC Association, we are so proud to represent the more than 12,000 public health nutrition service provider agencies and people like Kentucky WIC's Director Nicole Nicholas, who is also with us today, that ensure participants WIC participants get what they need to keep themselves and their children safe and healthy. As we celebrate WIC's past, we must also look to WIC's future. Today, WIC helps care for more than half the babies born in the United States. But an ongoing funding shortfall increases the risk that states might have to start turning prospective participants away or cutting benefits for current participants. We simply cannot allow this to happen during a time when rates of hunger, poverty, and maternal mortality are all increasing. All of us must do our part to urge Congress provide the additional dollars that WIC needs to carry out its critical mission. So let's begin our celebration. We're going to start with a video that looks back at the Pineville Clinic and hear from some of our honoured guests. And then you're all invited to join us for a reception afterwards. As we listen, learn and connect, please accept my sincere gratitude for being with us today. For decades, the promise of WIC has been that the programme will be there for anyone who needs it. Anyone who needs it. As our programme will demonstrate, this is a promise worth keeping, today, tomorrow, and for all the days to come. Thank you so much. Now, please join me in welcoming Kentucky WIC Director Nicole Nicholas, who's helped serve more than 100,000 Kentuckians on WIC, and will share some more on the original Pineville Clinic. Thank you.
Welcome everybody who's here today. I know many of you all have traveled many distances all across this nation. We have the National WIC Association staff as well as the NWA board. And then we have many honorary guests from Kentucky, including our Bell County staff. And so it's an honor to be here with you today. And I welcome you to Kentucky if this is your first time or if this is where you live. I'm hoping that you enjoy Kentucky and the beauty of Kentucky. So thank you for being here today. As I said, it is an honor to be here with you today celebrating 50 years of WIC. It's amazing. And WIC is able to celebrate 50 years because it's really this simple. WIC works. WIC helps prevent anemia in our infants and our children. The WIC program helps ensure women enter prenatal care early. The WIC program ensures that our children are growing and our infants are growing healthy and strong. WIC helps ensure that our moms are breastfeeding and have the support that they need. The WIC program has been shown to save healthcare dollars and Medicaid funds. It's a program that is successful and has many health benefits for our citizens. In addition, it contributes to our local economies. And, as Georgia mentioned, there is a real personal touch. If you've ever been in a WIC clinic, you will see that there is a connection and a rapport between the WIC participants and the WIC providers. Someone can come to the WIC program and know that they are getting the help that they need to start a healthy and strong family. Kentucky is very proud to have the honor of being the very first WIC clinic in the nation. And this was made possible by people who were dedicated to improving the nutrition of women, infants, and children at the federal level, the state level, and the local agency level. As you heard earlier, there was a pilot program in 1972, which then allowed us to implement the WIC program in 1974. I'll just give you a little history. Helen B. Frazier was our MCH, Maternal Child Health Division Director, and Peggy Kidd was what would be known as the Kentucky WIC Director back in the early 1970s. They started a program to provide iron-fortified formula to infants that were low birth weight and premature, that they themselves could see that there was a need for more. This was not meeting the needs of our Kentucky citizens. When they found out that they had the opportunity to apply to implement the WIC program, they were so excited. The announcement was made in July of 1973. They applied and sent an application in by August of 1973. And late December 1973, they heard that they had received this award. Well, less than a month later, they had implemented the program and opened this site in Pineville, Kentucky. Dedication, desire, and knowledge to do what was best for our citizens. We are so lucky to have had these pioneering women who were so dedicated to the health of our citizens in Kentucky, and we're so proud of the work that they have done. You will be, as Georgia mentioned, I'm going to be introducing the video. The National WIC Association has done a fantastic job on this video, showcasing why the WIC program was needed 50 years ago and why it continues to build strong communities and families today. Please enjoy this video showcasing the important role that Pineville, Kentucky has in opening the very first WIC clinic. Thank you.
Well, I'm a retired nurse, so I don't do WIC now, but I did back in 1974. We had a waiting room full of patients on that day, I remember. And then, of course, the people from Atlanta came and people from Frankfurt came, and it was like hoopla. You know, there was a lot of people there, and the media was there, and all the important people was there, and we were entertaining the patients and giving them all the information that they needed to participate in the program. I remember the day we issued the first voucher, which was to infants. It started out right at first with infants with iron fortified formula.
While I was in the emergency room, frequently I would see young infants and young children coming in with severe anemia, which in the late 1960s and early 1970s was horrific. We had to not only frequently treat iron deficiency anemia, but hospitalize infants. And at the same time, those same infants and young children exhibited stunted growth and other indicia of malnutrition. I said, why don't we treat the malnutrition that I was seeing? Why not try to prevent it by paying attention to nutritional issues that exist in during pregnancy and infancy and the first few years of life?
As a Bell County resident, I just think that it's amazing that we were the first place to implement WIC. I think that where our poverty rate is so high, I think that all of our residents really appreciated that.
Not only that, it supplemented their household benefits in regards to healthy foods.
The benefits are very important to the participant because it's going to provide them with nutritious food, fresh fruits and vegetables. Those are probably things that they wouldn't be able to buy normally because fruits and vegetables are expensive and maybe they're not necessarily in their budget.
It's made it substantially easier financially, for sure, especially now when all the groceries are crazy and the fruits, the vegetables, the eggs, the milk, yogurt, it all adds up, especially like in the times that I really, really, really needed it and we just couldn't afford a lot, was just being able to feel secure and safe that I was able to feed my babies regardless if I had the money or not, that the WIC was always there when I needed it.
You know, a lot of programs don't last very long, especially like federal programs. They'll be 4 or 5 years and then they phase out. But this one, this is our 50th anniversary, and I was here at the 40th anniversary. And I hope it lasts because it's a good program.
It makes me very proud of our clinic that we pioneered the first WIC voucher and the first WIC clinic.
That just like mind-blowing, little old Pineville having the first WIC office. But it's surely been a blessing to all of us, for sure. Because I don't know how a lot of new moms would make it without it.
Well, I'm a retired nurse, so I don't do WIC now, but I
Infants and Children's Program was born. Right here in Bell County, the Pineville WIC office, the first of its kind, provided Kentucky families with food and services at a time when they needed it most. And while Pineville was the home of the first location, the WIC program spread across the country and was operating in 45 states in the first year. Over the decades, the WIC program has grown to be vital to new mothers and children in all 50 states. And the program and its impact has expanded too. WIC has been credited with reducing premature birth, improving cognitive development, and lowering the risk of infant mortality. This is us truly believing that every child is a child of God, and making sure whatever circumstances they're born into, we give them the greatest care, caring for them like they were our own. The program has been described as transforming the nutritional well-being of Americans' at-risk women, infants, and children. That's something we can and we should be proud of. But today, this program, like Kentucky, finds itself at a crossroads, one where we must choose to invest so we can keep building a better Kentucky for all of our families. Right now, we have a major responsibility to ensure that this program continues, and all I'd ask is that Congress and our state legislature start not with what party they're in or with what color they may wear on their ties, but with the basic empathy that we are taught to have for one another. We're taught that golden rule, that we love our neighbor as ourselves. And the parable of the Good Samaritan says everyone's our neighbor, and there are no buts. There are no exceptions in that rule at all. And you think about the parable when Jesus tells the disciples, let the children come to me and do not deter them. I'd like to think that's a lot bigger than just them physically being able to reach them. But it's about what we are supposed to do for children of God, not just in Kentucky, but in every part of this country and around the world. Let me just say that funding for WIC ought to be a no-brainer out of Washington, D.C. It doesn't have anything to do with anything else they're arguing about. I mean, before you get to any arguments, and there may be merit between some of the big ones, between different parts of government or different factions in a party or different parties, how about you fund the basic programs that we all agree on, that ultimately respect the lives of so many people across America? It's just about doing what's right and doing what we all have in common and know we have to do before you start disagreeing and let that get in the way of everything else. Now, in our most recent inauguration, we called it Forward Together. The idea that when we wake up every morning, we're not thinking about Democrats versus Republicans or who the next president's going to be. We're thinking about our families. We're thinking about getting them safely to school, getting to work safely, the quality of the roads that we're driving on. We're thinking about our job and whether we're making enough money to support that family. We're thinking about health care and how far we're going to have to travel for that next appointment for ourselves, our kids, or our parents. We're thinking about those basic needs that we ought to be able to address, all of us together, without this divisiveness creeping into it. Now, when we look at the things we can do to move us forward, we are not each other's enemies. And this time of divisive politics, of trying to dehumanize other people, has to end. You see the challenges that it's creating right now by a program. It's about helping newborns and their moms, making sure everybody gets to a healthy start at risk. That's exactly what we're not supposed to do in Washington, D.C. or Frankfort, Kentucky. And when we look at where we are as a state right now, this program and so many others are critical. When I look at our great health departments and our healthcare heroes and our providers, you would think that I might say the most important time for your service was during that pandemic. And let me tell you, I'm so proud of how you performed in that pandemic. That pandemic was about life versus death, but let me tell you about what your work is right now. I mean, right now, we have an economy on fire in Kentucky. I just came from Flash Steelworks over in Middlesboro. It's going to employ 100 people making state-of-the-art body armor right here in Bell County. They're eventually going to expand. We're talking about hundreds of great jobs, and they're coming all over Kentucky. We're building the 2 largest battery plants on planet Earth. We opened the cleanest, greenest recycled paper mill that the planet has ever seen. Suddenly, international companies that claim they didn't know where we were want to be right here and want those jobs to benefit your families. That means now. Now what you do is more important than ever. At a time when we're creating a good job for everybody, we can get trained enough, educated enough, and yes, healthy enough to fill. How we take care of each other, especially those children early in life, is so critical. It's one of the reasons I'm pushing so hard for universal pre-K, because no child should enter kindergarten not being 100% ready. What this program means, if we can continue to push forward, to invest in this community and in others in the way we've been doing it in water and sewer projects, in continuing to expand healthcare and better reimbursements to make sure that you can get the providers right here, ensuring that no one ever has to drive 2 hours or take 2 buses to see the doctor that they need to see. Now, this is our time of moving ahead, not slowly, but in great balance and leaps, becoming a national economic leader. It is right there for Kentucky. Oh, we are viewed nationally in such a different way than we were even 4 years ago. And our chance is so special right now. Investing in WIC, investing in universal pre-K, providing our public school educators the big raise they need so that we can continue to provide the best public schools for our kids. All of that right now is on the line, both in Washington and in Frankfurt. But here's the thing. If we push out all the noise and all the division, all the name calling, all the hate and the anger that's out there, what we can see is these are basic investments that aren't partisan at all, that help every single Kentuckian achieve the very best life and have the most opportunity. I mean, this is our moment. We waited for it all our lives, and our parents and our grandparents worked so hard to make this moment possible. So let's make sure that we are loud, and you'll hear me be loud, to tell Washington, D.C. to knock it off, to fund WIC, and then we'll turn to Frankfurt and get them to fund all the things we need them to fund too. So folks, I couldn't be happier than to be here in Bell County today, a special part of Kentucky, one I believe in, one I believe in investing in, one where I work with your mayor here in Pineville and your county judge. We never see party, we never talk about party, we just talk about progress. And if we can do that together, we ought to be able to do that nationally, on the state level, and on the local level. So to everyone associated with WIC, thank you. I mean, to 50 years of service to WIC, I admit I don't know what 50 years of service is like. I haven't figured out what 50 years of life is like yet. But sadly, I'm getting closer. I'm working on it. But let me just say to our 2 pioneers, our 2 founders, if we can, I hope you have seen what a huge transformational difference that your work has made. And I know that you respect the work that each and every one of these health department officials do, taking what was a phenomenal idea and giving their very best, their heart and soul into every person that walks in. And you know what? Treating every single one of them with dignity. Regardless of the circumstances they come from, regardless of the fact that they need help. Even if some of those individuals have made mistakes, you see a child of God in both the parent and the child, and you do the very best you can for them. And that makes you the very best of us. Remember, life is short. Our job is to do good things and to be kind to each other. And if we can do that, I think there'll be a bright 50-year future for the WIC program. Now, if the right people would join me on stage, I have an official proclamation from the Commonwealth of Kentucky recognizing 50 years of WIC that started right here in Bell County. here too. Can we get the heads of our local health department up here too? I'm not leaving y'all out. Oh, come on, I know what you'll have had to put up with. You deserve to be a part of something fun up here. And who do we have raise their hands that works directly with the WIC program? Here. All right, there's Rick, come on. All right, you're all right. All right, I'm going to officially sign it, and then we're going to hold it up and get that. We're going to wait for that. They do the hard work. By the way, we're not just celebrating WIC Day, we're proclaiming WIC Month. All right, on behalf of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, we love you all. We thank you for this program you've created. 50 years recognized here today in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I'm done. Thanks.
Wow, this just gets more and more exciting. We are going to do our second attempt to show you our short film. Are we ready? I got thumbs up. Okay, let's do it.
The first voucher, which was to infants. It started out.
By request, special request, we're going to start it over.
Well, I'm a retired nurse, so I don't do WIC now, but I did back in 1974. We had a waiting room full of patients on that day, I remember, And then, of course, the people from Atlanta came and people from Frankfurt came, and it was like hoopla. You know, there was a lot of people there, and the media was there, and all the important people was there, and we were entertaining the patients and giving them all the information that they needed to participate in the program. I remember the day we issued the first voucher, which was to infants. It started out right at first with infants with iron fortified formula.
While I was in the emergency room, frequently I would see young infants and young children coming in with severe anemia, which in the late 1960s and early 1970s was horrific. We had to not only frequently treat iron deficiency anemia, but hospitalize infants. And at the same time, those same infants and young children exhibited stunted growth and other indicia of malnutrition. I said, why don't we treat the malnutrition that I was seeing? Why not try to prevent it by paying attention to nutritional issues that exist in during pregnancy and infancy and the first few years of life?
As a Bell County resident, I just think that it's amazing that we were the first place to implement WIC. I think that where our poverty rate is so high, I think that all of our residents really appreciated that.
Not only that, it supplemented their household benefits in regards to healthy foods.
The benefits are very important to the participant because it's going to provide them with nutritious food, fresh fruits and vegetables. Those are probably things that they wouldn't be able to buy normally because fruits and vegetables are expensive and maybe they're not necessarily in their budget.
It's made it substantially easier financially, for sure, especially now when all the groceries are crazy and the fruits, the vegetables, the eggs, the milk, yogurt, it all adds up, especially like in the times that I really, really, really needed it and we just couldn't afford a lot, was just being able to feel secure and safe that I was able to feed my babies regardless if I had the money or not, that the WIC was always there when I needed it.
You know, a lot of programs don't last very long, especially like federal programs. They'll be 4 or 5 years and then they phase out. But this one, this is our 50th anniversary, and I was here at the 40th anniversary. And I hope it lasts because it's a good program.
It makes me very proud of our clinic that we pioneered the first WIC voucher and the first WIC clinic.
That just like mind-blowing, little old Pineville having the first WIC office. But it's surely been a blessing to all of us, for sure. Because I don't know how a lot of new moms would make it without it.
I just want to give a shout out to our comms team who worked really hard to put that video together. They can really do Okay, so our next speaker is an invaluable colleague. At the federal level, WIC is run by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Its Food and Nutrition Service, or FNS, works closely with state and local WIC agencies to ensure participants get the support they need every day. We are so pleased to have Assistant Administrator of FNS representing USDA here today. Please welcome Dr. Tanika Owens.
Good afternoon, Pineville, and thank you for having me. I do want to again extend my sincere appreciation to Dr. David Page and Ms. Betty Hopkins for having the vision to bring forth this 50-year celebration. This started with you all, and we're still here, and we have the honor of celebrating today. So thank you for your vision and for your persistence, but also thank you to NWA for inviting us to be a part of this historic and monumental event. I am grateful to be able to represent USDA and the Food Nutrition Service, affectionately known as FNS, as we celebrate 50 years of WIC, which is the nation's premier, powerful, evidence-based public health program. This is a very historic milestone, but one of many, right? The history of WIC has shown lots of success stories, some of which I'll talk about today. But at the foundation of that is WIC is about helping families get the nutrition, healthcare, and breastfeeding services they need to build a healthier future. Looking back over the history, some of which you've heard from the governor as well as Georgia, it's full of success stories that have evolved into huge wins, not only for residents of Pineville, but for the nation as a whole. And each of these success stories don't happen without the reality of the people behind them, as well as the passion and determination that they continue to show despite challenges that may come their way. People like Ms. Betty Hopkins, who has been a part of the WIC program from the very beginning, she's at the core of the success that we see within WIC. Your trailblazing efforts, like opening the first clinic in the nation right here in Pineville, has served as a catalyst for this life-saving program. And now, I know many of you know that saying that WIC is a life-saving program is not an exaggeration. Evidence shows that WIC participation is associated with fewer infant deaths, fewer premature births, and reduced infant mortality, and that's nothing short of incredible. Your dedication and the dedication of the WIC community here in Pineville and across the country to maternal and child health is life-saving. Thank you each for all that you do day in and day out. Now I'd like to talk about a few of the federal milestones as it relates to WIC. Excuse me. The momentum to develop a program like WIC began in the 1960s amid growing concern that many Americans were suffering from hunger and malnutrition. When the CBS documentary, Hunger in America, was released, it made the issue of poverty-related hunger more broadly visible. American policymakers and the public could see that persistent poverty, malnutrition, and related adverse health impacts were real issues in their communities. In 1969, the White House Conference on Food, Nutrition, and Health was convened to direct resources and develop solutions to hunger and malnutrition. Some of the recommendations from that conference report noted that special attention should be given to the nutrient needs of pregnant women and young children. Many of the programs that the USDA Food and Nutrition Service administers today, which improves nutrition security and safeguards the health of millions of Americans, began to take root after that White House conference. Among them was the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, which provided domestic commodities to feed pregnant women, infants, and children up to the age of 6 in low-income households. However, recognition quickly grew that this program, as well as the newly established food stamp program, now known as SNAP, were not specifically targeting maternal and infant malnutrition. Physicians like Dr. David Page at Johns Hopkins University and other community stakeholders began piloting solutions like voucher programs where doctors or clinic staff would prescribe women a voucher for a package of nutritious foods that they could redeem at a local food commissary. This demonstrates how the ideas that sparked the WIC program, as we know it today, really originated at the grassroots level. It's often the ingenuity of individuals on the ground, informed by the lived experience of the people they're serving, that lead to the creation of highly effective programs such as WIC. Then, in 1972, when Congress formally authorized WIC as a 2-year pilot program, USDA was entrusted to administer the program, and we are honored to have done so since. Of note, also during this time, legislation was passed that allowed federally recognized tribes to act as WIC state agencies, which was a critical step that ensured tribal communities could also access WIC's life-saving benefits. Now, I'd like to devote a little bit of time to the event that has brought us here today. In January 1974, the very first WIC clinic opened right here in Pineville, Kentucky. It is an enormous joy to be here with you all today and to be able to be in the presence of such trailblazers, where it all started 50 years later. You all led the way here in Pineville, and by the end of 1974, 45 states across the country have also opened up WIC clinics. Knowing what we know about WIC's efficacy, it's both highly impactful and cost-effective. It's no surprise that in 1975, Congress established WIC as a permanent program. Over the years, since then, through the combined efforts of trailblazers such as Dr. Page, as well as Ms. Betty Hopkins, Congress, and WIC stakeholders, there have been a number of programmatic improvements to WIC that have made it even stronger. Some of those include a requirement that established that nutrition education must be provided to all program participants, as well as an enhanced WIC food package developed for women who choose to exclusively breastfeed their babies. The program's name was even changed from a supplemental food program to the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for WIC, emphasizing that the program's focus was on nourishing moms and babies with good nutrition. Other milestones include the establishment of the WIC Farmers Market program, which provides participants benefits to use to purchase fresh, nutritious foods at authorized farmers markets. We've also expanded the expansion of nutritious foods offered to families to include fish, whole grains, and fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as the launch of the first national breastfeeding promotion campaign to support and promote breastfeeding as the primary source of infant nutrition where possible. It's truly inspiring to look back over the past 50 years at a program that has been instrumental in getting millions of families the nutrition and health care they need to build a healthier future. As we think about the future in the next 50 years of WIC, the momentum to keep strengthening WIC hasn't stopped. In 2022, the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health, which was a follow-up from the 1969 conference, yielded several recommendations and commitments related to improving WIC. And just like at the start, USDA is using those recommendations from the latest conference to inform our current investments in WIC. Our efforts are three-pronged. First, we're focused on strategic outreach to connect more of the WIC-eligible population to the program's proven benefits. Second, we proposed updates to the WIC food packages to reflect the latest nutrition science and provide participants more flexibility, variety, and choice. And third, we're modernizing the program to meet today's families where they are. On all of these fronts, equity and access for underserved communities are top of mind. Coming back to my first point, USDA is prioritizing building our targeted WIC outreach efforts. We're working with partners to develop and implement a bold, modern national outreach campaign to increase enrollment and retention in WIC, while reducing disparities in program access and delivery. This includes researching and testing messages about WIC that will resonate with eligible families, as well as how to reach them in ways that are trustworthy and welcoming. We look forward to sharing more about this outreach campaign and invite each of you to join us in those efforts. With regards to the WIC food package, we've proposed changes to the amounts and types of foods prescribed to WIC participants to best support their health, like increasing access to essential nutrients by providing more fruits and vegetables, and expanding options for greater variety. And we also proposed adjustments to better accommodate participants' personal and cultural food preferences, as well as special dietary needs. Finally, on the modernization front, we're taking action to make WIC work better for today's families. That means investing in technology in every step of the program, from applying for WIC and interacting with staff to receiving benefits and accessing nutrition education. We're also working to modernize the WIC shopping experience, whether it's in-store, online, or at farmers markets. For example, we're helping many state agencies transition from paper WIC benefits to mobile pay at farmers markets and testing WIC online shopping. As the retail market innovates, we want families to be able to shop simply and conveniently. We are very excited to see what these investments in modernization and outreach yield. Again, I invite each of you to join us in those efforts. In closing, I really want to encourage you each to take time to reflect on and celebrate how far WIC has come, both today and throughout the remainder of the year. Whether you just engaged with WIC or you're one of the pioneers that we have here with us who helped establish the program, we can all celebrate this historic moment. A healthier future for our country starts with healthy moms and children, and each of you, specifically Pineville residents, specifically have a huge part in making that future a reality. Thank you sincerely for your dedication to improving maternal and child health, and thank you, NWA, for convening us for this celebration. I look forward to connecting with each of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Owens. It's really heartening and wonderful to hear about all of the innovating that's coming out of USDA right now. We're excited to see the outcome of all of that work. So last week, speaking to the U.S. Conference of Mayors at the White House, President Biden said, mayors get things done. And Pineville is fortunate to have a mayor who fits that description. And we're fortunate that he's here. Please welcome your mayor, Scott Mayton.
Thank you all, and I certainly want to welcome everyone here, especially those that are here from Washington, D.C., and also our folks from Frankfurt. I guess I need to really welcome our locals, but, several months ago, when Tim started calling about this event, we get several calls, people wanting to use our theater, and I was like, sure, no big deal. Just kind of blew it off, and I talked to Crystal, the lady that takes care of there. She said, Scott, this is a big deal. She said, they're taking this very serious. I said, okay, they can still use theater, no big deal. Whatever we need to do. Whatever we need to do, no problem. So I could tell after talking to Tim, he was either very enthusiastic or just super aggressive because he was all about this thing. And I said, okay, we'll help do whatever we need. But how I really knew it was very serious, I've got a gentleman that works on my road department. And it don't matter if it rains, snows, Pineville wins a ball game, we lose a ball game, I get a phone call, text, 1 o'clock in that morning, it doesn't matter. I get a phone call at 2:45. Boss, there is a huge bus in town right now, and they're unloading in front of the theater. So, I didn't know about the bus, but that's okay. I knew the governor was coming, I thought he might have brought some people. So. But anyway, I do welcome y'all to Pineville, and I said a while ago, what if the program had failed? What if the folks at the health department and the folks that really pushed this program had not got out and really made it work? And I can speak firsthand, family members and friends and people that I know that are on WIC and use WIC, and it's been a lot of help to them. It's really helped them a lot, and it's because of the folks at the health department. I know they're really working hard and they're really pushing. And it goes again back to Miss Betty, who years ago was there, and I can remember many years ago, Betty mentioned it, well, I know she does every time she sees me. I was severely burnt when I was a young kid, and Betty took care of me at the hospital, so I can imagine how she pushed this program, like she always tried to take care of me, but we do appreciate it, and you know, it's very evident in the enthusiasm and you're always, the way you all feel about this program, and no wonder the programs are going good and continue forward. Like Betty said in the video, most federal programs usually die 4, 5, 6 years, but it takes a lot of hard work, and I know you folks are very passionate about it, to fly out of Knoxville, get on the bus, and come to Pineville. We appreciate you're here. I mean, we're glad you're here, but anyway, once again, welcome, and we're glad to have you, and keep up the good work, because you do serve a lot of folks across the nation, and especially in Bell County. Thank you.
I'm sorry we didn't tell you about that bus. It's going to be coming back to pick us up as well. Thank you so much for your remarks, Mermaid. Now, if you haven't noticed, people in Pineville are very proud of Pineville. And we know that extends to the WIC staff here in Bell County. So it's my privilege to present some certificates to the tireless WIC staff who set the standard for other WIC officers around the country. So I have some certificates. When I call your name, please come up on the stage and I'll present them to you. Elizabeth Holbrook. She's not here today? Okay. Stephanie Caldwell. Sarah Hoskins. Come on up. Melissa Burnett. Last but not least, Jody Keith. Now it's such a special honor to welcome our next speaker. Anyone who works with WIC or is familiar with its long history knows the name David Page. Without David Page's vision and execution, the WIC that we know today may not even exist. It is a singular honor to have him with us here today. And there's no one more fitting to pay tribute to our great friend, Betty Hopkins, who literally opened the doors to the Pineville Clinic in 1974. It's my privilege to welcome to the podium the grandfather of WIC, Dr. David Page.
Hello, Pineville. I've waited 50 years to get here. And here I am. It is absolutely wonderful, and what an honor. Thank you, NWA, for asking me to be present and to be the individual to award to dear Miss Betty Hopkins the Lifetime Achievement Award. So when I was asked, I thought, this is amazing. Ms. Hopkins has worked for 50 years in WIC, and I have worked for 50 years in WIC. That's 100 years of experience, and they've given me 5 minutes to summarize what's happening here. But I better get with it. Well, Pineville is the first, but I want to give you some backstory to this. Actually, all of the speakers have touched on every point I want to make. So I'm going to give you some backstory. The backstory is that Pineville not only is the first, but it is the most courageous, the most sacrificing program ever. And I'll tell you why. Because in 1972, in 1973, and 74, I was on the front lines. And there was this titanic battle between Congress, President Nixon, the Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, and the advocates. And the advocates asked Pineville if they wanted to participate in the program. Pineville was in the crosshairs of this monumental battle with respect to funding the WIC program, the pilot program. The administration wasn't really in favor of doing it. And it took a federal judge to release the funds. But then the advocates were looking for programs that could start up very quickly. And Pineville had been one of the first applicants. And Pineville said yes. They were willing to do what was necessary to take care of their community. That was a very courageous moment. So that's at first. The other thing, you saw Ms. Betty point to the programs that are collapsing in 3, 4, 5 years. And I can tell you how accurate that is. When I met Betty outside a few minutes before the ceremony, she and I reminisced quickly about the projects. They were called 501, 601, Children and Youth Projects. But they closed very quickly. And they closed quickly, and the health officers were very disappointed. They had to explain to their community why the program closed, and they were very skittish about taking on this risky program in terms of feeding pregnant women, infants, and children. And I know it well because I had to go throughout the state of Maryland, bartering with every health officer to let me carry out this pilot. And they took a pound of flesh, of course, and that was that I had to be the pediatrician in the clinic once a month, and I traveled all over the state to do that, happily to take care of the children, but the health officers gave their all to making the pilot program succeed. And I want to tell you one other area that I admire so much. It took your former Republican Senator, Marlo Cook, at the time, to help get the passage, of the bill, to help get that bill through. They joined with Senators Humphrey, Senator McGovern, Senator Casey from California, Senator Dole, who was a Republican nominee for president. It was an extraordinary act of courage. And they asked Senator Cook, why did you do it? why did you do that? He said, my constituents needed it. What an extraordinary moment in bipartisanship. What an extraordinary moment in the government coming together to do a great service for those who needed it most. That was the most unusual that you can think about. And of course, it took Bell County Health Department, it took the governor's office, all in Kentucky, all in this wonderful state of Kentucky, this bluegrass state that I've come to have such an affection for. And I've learned so much in even thinking about the 50th anniversary. And I want to talk about now our honoree. Miss Betty Hopkins is extraordinary. She is a hero. I've thought of her a lot. The fact that she was willing to come into this program, she came from the 501 project, she told me. And that was a project for maternal care that the government had started. And she transferred over to the WIC program. She was in the wilderness. No one knew what WIC was. No one knew anything about it. And she is the first WIC lady, as so many of the women who provide services in the program across the country. She was the first WIC lady, the first nurse to take this on, nurse, nutritionist, and it was an extraordinary act of faith on her part. And she did that in the wilderness, and she had to define the program. I thought about this actually quite a bit. There was no one to train her. There was no precedent. There was no manual to follow. Those of you who know WIC, there was no PPM. There was none of that at all. She had to define it, and she had to think it through, define what WIC is, and she was able to do it magnificently. We saw in the video, this is a woman who's self-confident, who's pithy, who can lead the charge, and she did it. And she was on center stage. There were folks, because I was there, in the halls of Congress, there were folks in the Department of Agriculture, there were folks in the advocacy community, there were alliances of church groups who were leading different groups. The commodity support people in agriculture were concerned. And she was center stage, and she did it magnificently. She defined what the WIC program will be. She took her empathy for and joy of life, and she was able to create what was a shelter, what was available for marginalized individuals, for individuals who were in poverty. She provided a safe sinecure. She embraced them. And we know, those of us who were in the WIC community, know that there's more than a dollop of love. We respect our participants. We care for them. We know that they are in trouble, and we help them. You may remember or know that 2/3 of all of our participants are below the federal poverty level. What is the poverty level in 2023? $30,000. What is it for a family of three? Half of that, 15,000. How can you manage on that? So you need to have a level of empathy, non-judgmental, and these are the characteristics of the program. And that's why people come back. People vote with their feet. They don't feel alienated. They feel secure. They feel loved. I'm going to use that word. I don't want to use it casually, but they feel loved. And that's why WIC has prospered. So it was Miss Betty Hopkins who was able to set the tone. And yes, there were 45 clinics operating at the end of the year. Of course, it took Wyoming until 1980 to actually join the program, but we love Wyoming anyway. But the notion of defining the program, being first, creating a shelter and a warm, receptive place for our WIC clients is what has carried us through to these 50 years. And I love the program, but I'm also disappointed to know that the poverty rate is still the same, pretty much as it was in 1974. I happened to look that up as I was thinking about this once again, the history of this program. We have a lot to do, and all of the speakers before me have said so clearly what has to be done. I want to take Governor Beshear's comments and just say, just play them, and you don't need me at this point. But I am happy to be here, and I admire so many, all of you in the office. You honored me by taking a picture of me, and I was really embarrassed, but I love doing it. I love doing it, and I don't want to be insincere. It was a wonderful moment. But the program has been built by teams of people across the country. 270 million, I can't think of those figures. 270 million WIC clients, visits of WIC clients have been made in the last 50 years. It's a staggering number. Half of the infants participating in WIC. Staggering numbers. I had a vision, but everyone in this audience and everyone over the past 50 years has defined that vision. And the one that we are honoring today is Betty Hopkins. And it is my absolute pleasure, I can't almost tearful, am I, to welcome Betty Hopkins to the stage, to permit me to live to the point of honoring Betty Hopkins for 50 years of service. I could think of no one more worthy than Ms. Hopkins, who was able to carry this through with such elegance, and commitment. So please join me in welcoming my dear colleague, my dear friend, Betty Hopkins.
Thank you so much, Dr. Page. Thank you so much, Betsy, for absolutely everything. And the entire Bell County WIC staff. We're about to conclude our program, and it gives me great joy to welcome someone who's both a national leader and a state leader in WIC. I'm also proud to say she's both a colleague and a really good friend. Please welcome our final speaker, last but certainly not least, the board chair of the National WIC Association and the state director for the Minnesota WIC program, Kate Rankin. Thank you so much. What an exciting afternoon for us. And I'm just so grateful to be here and so grateful that all of you are here as well. As Georgia mentioned, my name is Kate Franken. I'm the State WIC Director for Minnesota and also the Board Chair of the National WIC Association. I'm also the last person standing between you and what is sure to be an enjoyable reception, so I promise I'll be brief. But first, let me say, what a program. What an amazing group of people and honorees that we've had here today. And it's a hard act to follow, I'll tell you that, but so grateful that they're all here and for this opportunity to really kick off the 50th anniversary celebration of the WIC program. To my friend and colleague, Georgia Machel, thank you for showing why you're the right leader for the National WIC Association during such a critical time. To Governor Beshear, Mayor Maiden, you honor us with your presence today. Thank you for representing Kentucky and Bell County so well. To Dr. Owens, USDA is an invaluable partner, and we appreciate all that you do, all that your colleagues do to make WIC so effective. To Dr. Page and Betty Hopkins, all of us who play a part in WIC are standing on your shoulders. You inspire us every day and especially today. To Nicole Nicholas, more than 100,000 women and children in Kentucky who rely on WIC owe you a debt of gratitude. Thank you for your service. And to the Bell County WIC staff, as a state WIC director myself, I have a soft spot in my heart for the folks really on the ground, providing WIC services and making this program work every day. You are the best of us. But if you'll permit me just a few closing observations. First, on a personal note, good nutrition has always been important to me. As a registered dietitian, I studied nutrition and public health. I made my career working in public health nutrition and have endeavored to improve the health and well-being of individuals and communities. But it really wasn't until I got to WIC where I saw how one program, which of course prioritizes good nutrition, but also so much more to improve the health of women and babies, could make such a big difference in on such a wide scale. I have a unique vantage point with WIC. As the board chair, I look at the big picture. As a state WIC director, I focus more on the day-to-day of the program, but no matter which perspective I use, I see what a difference this program makes to all of us. It's just incredible to think about the impact that WIC has on a day-to-day basis and over the past 50 years. Second, as Georgia made so clear, this can't be a time for resting on our laurels. Just a few days ago, Congress passed another bill to keep the government's lights on and the government funded for a few more weeks. And that's certainly better than the alternative, which would have been a shutdown, but it's not nearly enough, and it's not nearly what we need, which is to provide WIC with the additional funding that's needed to be there for every current and prospective participant that comes to a clinic. Ultimately, of course, that requires a vote in Congress, but getting Congress to take that vote requires all of us. It requires us to raise our voices, to send letters, to make phone calls, to share stories, to use whatever means we have at our disposal to urge our elected officials to do the right thing. So by all means, let's enjoy the celebration today. I think we've certainly earned it. But let's be ready to roll up our sleeves tomorrow and continue with this fight. Which brings me to my closing thought. As I'm sure Betty Hopkins can attest, no one in that first Pineville clinic probably imagined that we'd be celebrating their accomplishments in 2024. But consider this, in 2074, on the 100th anniversary of WIC, they'll probably be looking back on us now in 2024. What will they say about the WIC program? What will they say about us then? History will ultimately make that call, but we get to shape that history. Every time we get a new participant certified, or a WIC counselor helps a new mom on her breastfeeding journey, or a young child gets that first bite of a new fruit or vegetable that maybe their family couldn't have otherwise afforded, we're writing a new chapter in that story. We're bringing light to someone's life. We're giving people hope. And I've never been more confident than I am right now at this very moment that we will rise up and meet every challenge that we face. Now, please join me in a toast to kick off the celebratory moment. Let's raise our glasses together. Here's to a 50-year-long legacy of creating better health outcomes for women, infants, and children. Here's to the place where it all started, Pineville, Kentucky. Here's to 50 more years. Here's to a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the WIC program. Thank you all for coming and sharing such a momentous occasion. Let's raise our glasses together. A toast to 50 more years of WIC. You're here. Thank you so much for coming. Please join us below for reception afterwards here. And again, thank you so much for being here, for your support of WIC, and for all of the trailblazers that we have here that have joined us today in